Yo, what it do, y'all? Welcome back to Fandom Frequency, where we get into all different corners of the multiverse that is pop culture. And if you're just joining us for the first time, we like to get into all different corners of this thing. We like to break down movies, TV shows, horror, sci-fi, action, comic book movies, Marvel, DC, Star Wars, everything in between. We love to cover it here, music. So we want you to make sure you're clicking all the buttons below the video and joining this awesome fandom community where we like to get into the entire geeky multiverse, if you will. Make sure you drop your thoughts of this movie down below. But with no further ado, it's time to get into one of my favorite franchises of all time. The day has come for myself, Kenny, your host today, to discuss one of my most anticipated film of this year, and I'm talking about Scream 6, baby. It's a Scream, baby. Scream 6 is here. I finally saw it over this past weekend. Got a little bit busier over the weekend on my first day off than I was originally planning after I worked over the weekend. So this review is coming a little bit later than I would have originally liked it to have, but oh well, better late than never. But now it is time to get into all the things I loved about the movie, didn't like, etc., all the things in between. And let me just say right off the bat, I absolutely had a blast with this flick. I loved it, man. For the most part, this film really fucking worked for me, man. I had a blast with this. For those of you that don't know, I'm a diehard Scream fan. It is literally the reason why I am a horror fan. To this day, it made me a horror fan. It wasn't the first horror film I ever saw, per se, but it was the first slasher film I ever saw. And from the time I saw a kid dressed up as Ghostface in kindergarten, and that scared me from that moment on, in the visual of Ghostface mask and everything like that, that stuck in my mind forever. And when I finally had the chance to see it on cable a couple years later, when I was around 7 or 8 years old, around 7, I finally saw the original Scream, and from then on, I was a true blue horror fan through and through to this very day, and my fandom for the horror genre has only grown ever since, and I owe my entire horror fandom to the Scream franchise. I always have a lot of love for the Scream franchise, so just know that going in. So I definitely have a bias in that direction of it, but I can definitely call out the shortcomings of this particular film, of the franchise in general. So don't worry, we're not going to necessarily be praising this like this is a perfect film or anything of that nature. So still going to be a balanced review, but just want to give you all some context for those that are joining us for the first time. And for those of you that have been joining us on the entire hype train of Scream 6, I'll drop a little card for it up in the corner. We've been doing rankings and reactions to the trailers and breakdowns, theory videos, all kinds of stuff leading up to the release of Scream 6. So check that out when you get a chance after this video. And we're going to have some more content down the line as well. Make sure you stay tuned for that. But with the review at hand here, let me get into the main positives about Scream 6 that I absolutely loved. And the one thing about Scream that was dope from the jump was the opening scene and Ghostface himself, their self, whatever you want to say. I absolutely love the way they portrayed Ghostface in this film. You've heard the term relentless used by plenty of people behind the scenes, the cast and whatnot, the crew, and that is true. Ghostface is relentless and not giving a fuck. He is going after his victims in this film and really going at it, man. And Ghostface is really cutthroat, pun intended, really going at motherfuckers, man. And the gore factor is definitely cranked up in this one. No bullshit. I remember people kind of saying that about the last film with some of the early reactions and reviews to it. Honestly, that was bullshit. I don't think Scream 5 was really that much more brutal than anything else we've seen in the franchise, other than a kill, maybe, or two. For the most part, it was pretty on par with the franchise. And I do think not every single kill in this film as well is necessarily crazier than what we've seen in the past. But some of it, and I would say the majority of the kills, are gorier, are more intense, are more brutal than anything we've seen in the franchise before. I'm not going to say who, I won't spoil the context of it, but you see a chopped up person in a particular place, you do not want to see a person chopped up. And let me just say, with a person alone being chopped up, that's gorier than anything we've seen before in the franchise, just alone in that one scene. So right then and there, that's telling you. And why I don't even know why I'm not spoiling it. I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. This is the spoiler review. Duh. Hello. It was Tony Revolori's partner in crime, Greg, who was actually plotting a bunch of Ghostface killings with him, because that was a whole crazy, brilliant part of the opening scene right there, was Tony Revolori's character of Jason going as Ghostface, dressed up as Ghostface, going after Samara Weaving's character of Laura, a professor at the college teaching 20th century slasher movies, apparently, who still pulled the stoops, going into the dark alley when she was on the phone with Ghostface, who was doing his own voice trickery right there, and she was supposed to be on a blind date and whatever. And this opening scene was really well done and really showed the difference of the environment being in New York City and whatnot. And I had a blast watching that go down. And the whole opening kill and everything was just simple, straight to the point for the most part. But the thing that was so brilliant about it was getting to see that brutal kill go down with Samara Weaving's character, or Samara, my bad, Samara Weaving's character in the alley there. And then you see Ghostface right there sit down or kneel in front of her dead body after he even got done killing her or whatever. And then he rips the mask off and it's Tony Revolori's character. And then you're like, oh shit, because I was just like, what the fuck? Did they just show one of the actual Ghostface killers at the beginning of the film? Whoa, that's crazy, right? But they completely swerved us because he ends up getting back into his normal clothes. He's walking home, runs into Tara, who's going to a fraternity, a frat party with the other members of the Core 4 that we will get into in a moment here. And that kicks off there, and then he goes back to his apartment, and then he ends up getting a call from Ghostface, who is posing as his friend Greg, but as we come to find out soon after that, after playing a little game of hot and cold with him, it turns out to be the real Ghostface, and he straight up says, who gives a fuck about movies? After Jason gets led to the freaking fridge where he opens it up and finds Greg's body all chopped up into pieces right there, like he's going to serve him up for dinner later. And then he opens up the fridge, turns around, and then bam, he gets stabbed brutally to death by Ghostface himself. And then bam, that's the opening freaking scene right there. And I gotta say, this is definitely up there as one of the best opening scenes of the franchise. Hands fucking down. Loved that. And getting into the Core 4 themselves, another one of my big positives of the film. While one of the members of the Core 4, I did have a few mixed moments with them. I do think at times they may have got a little bit annoying. I will get into that later. For the most part, I loved all the members of the Core 4, especially Sam and Tara, their whole storyline with the sisterhood and with the whole conflict of Tara feeling like Sam is being very much overprotective over her really works well in this film, and I really enjoy the dynamic of them two going back and forth. And both Jenna Ortega and Melissa Barrera really stepped up their game and were even better than they were in the first film. And with a lot of people, myself included, saying that Jenna Ortega really stole the show in the original, in the first film of this new kind of series, if you will, of this new era of Scream and Scream 5. I thought she really stole the show, even from Melissa Barrera, who was very, very, very good in the last one. But I think they both stepped up their game here. And Melissa Barrera really showed that she came to play and really showed what she was made of and really elevated the character of Sam Carpenter in this one and really made her such an even better character and made her really fully stand apart from Sydney as a final girl, as the person kind of leading the franchise moving forward or being the focal point of the franchise in a certain sense. So really loved their performances and their dynamic together, and the whole character arc of those characters worked really well. And then jumping over to Chad, my boy Chad Meeks Martin, I really enjoyed his Mason Gooding's performance as the character this time around. And I did enjoy him in 5, but I wasn't necessarily as in love with him, or I didn't necessarily as in love with him. Pump the brakes, y'all. Don't be throwing out any theories. I'm just playing. But anyway, I wasn't necessarily loving the character in the first one as much as I would say now, because I did enjoy him, but I thought he was a little bit one note in the last one, where this one, you really got to see a little bit more three-dimensionality to the character. You got to see a little bit more layers to him, and you got to see him really be much more of a focal point and kind of be more important in the overall story and stuff like that, where he was kind of relegated more to the background in the previous installment. So really loved his performance here. Really thought the character really shined, and his whole romance with Tara or whatever, I thought really worked well and didn't feel too forced. You know, you're always going to have that teen drama kind of, Dawson's Creek kind of vibe going on here. And that's the Kevin Williamson imprint on the Scream franchise. And I think Radio Silence really carried that over here very, very well. So really dug the Core 4. Loved Mindy for the most part. I do think at times she did get a little bit annoying to me. So kind of going into some of the mixed elements for me. I did think that she definitely was being a little over the top at times. But overall, I still enjoyed Jasmine Savoy Brown's performance as the character. Really well done. Really dug it. Awesome stuff. But getting into some other elements of the film, man, like I said, the kills themselves and the chase sequences and all those set pieces that we've seen from the trailer, like the subway and the bodega and all that shit, man, so well done. Like, that fucking shotgun scene is so well done. It's even better than it looks like in the trailer. everything. Like those main set pieces and all the other ones that we get throughout the film, the chase scenes, the kill scenes, especially all the stuff that goes down in the third act at the shrine between all the killers and the reveal and Kirby and the whole kill switch and all the stuff. Sarah and Sam and Tara going back and forth with the Ghostface killers and all that shit, dude. Freaking Chad straight catching hands with those fools in there, man. That was so well done. And just the whole sequence with the shrine itself when they discover it with Gale Weathers and them going to it in the third act, which is so well done. But we're going to get more into the third act in just a little bit here as we kind of get through some of the film, because I'm going to be dropping more videos kind of breaking down more of recap, kind of more details, Easter eggs, and things like that of the film. So this one's going to be a little bit more bare bones, but I got that other video coming within the next couple days after y'all see this one. So don't worry, we're going to get into all the nitty-gritty details of it, but just trying to hit most of the main points without getting too deep and complex, because we will be having some other breakdown type stuff for the film and whatnot, re-ranking the franchise, things of that nature. So we're going to get all into it, but just kind of hitting those bare bones things. And for the most part, I really liked what they did with Kirby Reed's character as well. Hayden Panettiere really came and brought it once again. And although I thought they could have put her in the film just a little bit more in kind of that mixed kind of way, I did enjoy what we got with her overall, her becoming an FBI agent and all that stuff, and the way that that worked itself into the plot. And they used her and Sam as the main red herrings, but the one red herring they really used with Kirby almost had me for a minute there in the third act. So really, really liked what she did there, and liked how it definitely felt like that same character we met from Scream 4, but definitely felt like she's evolved and changed and matured over the years, obviously now that she's 30 as opposed to being 18, 19 at the time back and when that film came out in 2011. So really cool to see the evolution of the character, and overall I thought they executed her character very well, and she did feel like an essential element of the film for the most part. And I'm going to see after I watch it again tonight if my opinion changes in that matter. So you might see me kind of praise that element down the line as we break down this movie a little bit more here over the next week or so. So definitely stay tuned for all that. But really, really loved Kirby in this. Really enjoyed Hayden Panettiere's performance in here. And Josh Segarra, I thought he was pretty good. You know what I mean? Didn't necessarily blow me away, but I dug his new character of Danny Brackett, I believe his name was, Q-Boy Next Door or whatever. Thought his overall dynamic with Melissa Barrera's character, Sam, worked really well, and I thought those two actors had pretty good chemistry as well, so I thought that worked pretty well for the most part. Let me see, what else was I gonna... Oh yeah, and the overall cinematic feel of this taking place in New York and the whole setting of it being in NYC was so well done, and you really felt the difference in the vibe, and you really got a sense of how cool and the potential that was there with New York. I thought was really well executed for the most part. It was really effectively used to up the tension, up the suspense, up the intensity of the scenes, especially on the subway scene. That shit was dope, man, as Ghostface just kept getting closer and closer after they initially got separated, where Mindy had to go on the second train with Ethan, the Jack Champion's character. And as all that went down, and then Sam, Tara, Chad, and Danny all got separated onto the first train. And then you had all the different Easter eggs going on with everyone dressed up for Halloween night and all that. That's another cool thing about this movie being set around a couple days before, like pretty much the week of Halloween. So I love how you get the first Scream film that actually takes place close to Halloween, so you even get more of those Halloween vibes, and that's kind of a big thing for the original film, really referencing Halloween. So I like how they brought that full circle in this one. But overall, that subway scene is just so intense, man. And the whole thing with freaking Mindy getting stabbed and like no one reacting or doing shit, and it's just right there in public in the open spaces. And crazy shit does go down like that on Subway, so it's pretty cool to see the way they were able to bring that to life here. And the whole scene with Gale with Ghostface and Gale in her apartment, the whole attack/chase scene with that was so well done as well. Really loved getting to see Gale finally get her conversation with the one and only Ghostface, you know what I mean? So cool, after 26, 27 years, we finally get a conversation on the phone between Gale and Ghostface, and it was so well done. And the dialogue they had with Ghostface in this particular part especially was so damn brutal, was so damn, like, just savage, man. Like, I just love the dialogue with Ghostface in this scene and just in the whole movie in general, but especially in that scene, so well done. And Courtney Cox definitely brought it in that scene, and another scene later on at the shrine where she's talking about Dewey and moving on and kind of apologizing for what she's done and whatnot, writing the book or whatever. And that was another fun part with her getting punched by Tara. I didn't actually see that Easter egg coming around, so that was a pretty cool little reference there. and just loved a lot of the stuff that happened with Gale for the most part. I would say that she was a little bit shoehorned into this thing, but for the most part, I definitely dug her character a lot. But I did think she was a little shoehorned in there, but I always have a good time seeing Courtney Cox play that role of Gale Weathers, and I do think that I think they should have taken her out, because I just don't see exactly what more interesting you can do with her at this point and this deep into her character being around and whatnot. But oh well, we'll see what they end up doing in the future. But I'm definitely interested to see what's going to happen from here. But liked her overall, but thought her writing the book after she said she wouldn't, and some of the way that she felt shoehorned in there was a little bit repetitive and or shoehorned in there. So don't think Gale's role was necessarily excellent, but it was okay. But it definitely wasn't something that was like a huge negative that draws back the film too much. For me, in my opinion, I also thought they handled the absence of Sydney very, very well in the film and just addressed it with that dialogue scene between Sam, Tara, and Gale when they're coming out of the police station after they were interviewed by Detective Bailey, aka Dermot Mulroney's character, and all the way that all went down. Really dug that sequence and the way that they kind of handled Sydney just wanted to go off with Mark and her family and hide out somewhere, and pretty much the straight up line that Gale drops that after all that she's been through, I think Sydney deserves her to ride off into the sunset and get her happy ending. And I think that's true. If they can't find a way to compromise with Neve Campbell behind the scenes and bring her back in a way that's concise and makes sense for the story, I think it's fine just to leave it the way it is personally. But if they bring her back and have a cool way of doing it, bringing everything full circle and tying that knot, I'm up for it. Always down for it. She is the #1 final girl to me. Best final girl of all time in my personal opinion. If I ever make a final girl ranking, you know where Sydney's going to land. But it was awesome the way that I thought that they handled her absence here. Very organic, very true to the plot, very well done. Thought they did a great job there. The overall direction of Radio Silence I thought was so well done as well. I think they even stepped it up a notch and really shot the hell out of this movie between the chase scenes and the different camera movements and the way that the sound design went down. I just thought they just did such a great job with this film, with the overall like just aesthetics and the way that it comes together and the way that they use Red Right Hand and the perfect moments and just the way that they directed this film with so much intensity and high energy. There's never a dull moment in this film, and I absolutely love it, man, for that thing alone. So I think Radio Silence, aka Matt Bettinelli, Open, and Tyler Gillette, I thought they did a phenomenal job together as co-directors doing this thing, and I think they just keep getting better and better with each installment, it feels like. And hopefully if they get that Scream 7 off the ground and we get that green light like we all suppose they will, that's going to be announced anytime now between now and next week. I'm calling it right now with the way it's cleaning up, making nearly $70 million overseas so far, worldwide right now. It's definitely going to be popping off. I can't wait to see where it goes down the line and where the potential is for the franchise, but I'm definitely loving most of what I'm seeing here, man. It's just so fucking awesome. I'm trying to think, is there anything else? And the shrine itself and all the freaking references and the careful detail they have to recreate all these images and all these props and items and pieces of evidence from all the different Ghostface killings that have gone on throughout this franchise is so well done. And I don't think they rely too heavily on nostalgia in this installment either. I think they lean on it just enough to make it feel reverent to what's come before and does tie into that whole meta-ness of the franchise without relying on it too much and with blazing its own trail just enough, with bringing its own unique elements, with building up its own characters enough to live off of the backbone of the franchise. And I don't think that legacy characters ever got in the way of the new core fork and the new cast leading into this thing and really taking the franchise and really carrying the torch forward. So I thought they did a great job balancing all those different aspects to it. I think this plot overall is pretty damn well, and I do think the killer reveal, as we're going to get into now, I thought was pretty damn good because I did not see all three of those people being the killer. I didn't see three killers come in per se that exact number. I was kind of speculating early on it would be a Ghostface cult, or it would be maybe like 3 to 4 people, but I wasn't necessarily dead set on 3 being the exact number, with it being Dermot Mulroney's character of Detective Bailey and his 2 kids, played by Jack Champion and Ethan Laundrie, and in the character of Quinn, played by Liana Liberato. And I thought they did a pretty damn good job with the reveal of making you question freaking Kirby Reed in that moment where Dermot Mulroney's character was like, oh, I called Pittsburgh or wherever the hell she was from. I called the police station, the FBI office, and they said that she's been let go months ago and hasn't reported to the station in a minute. So that immediately raises your red flags, and then you're like, oh shit, maybe Dermot Mulroney is a good guy, because I kind of suspected him a little bit early on, and I always suspected Ethan from Jump Street, so that was a little bit obvious, but I didn't necessarily have Quinn and Detective Bailey pegged for sure, more so Detective Bailey than anything else, but I wasn't sure that there was having that familial connection either. And the whole familial connection that they have with Richie, I didn't see that exactly coming either. So that's just me, maybe. I know a lot of you guys and a lot of you fellow fans out there did see it coming. I personally did not, but I really, really love the reveal. Overall, I do think there is a little bit of a stretch of how they got all those items into the shrine and stuff like that, where Dermot Mulroney's character had explained in their monologue, as the Ghostface killers tend to do, where he had assembled this big, massive collection for his son Richie and whatnot, and over the years and stuff like that, throughout these killings as it went, after 4, I guess you would say, from all those previous killings back in the day, and the way that all ties in together, while I thought was a little bit far-fetched, was a very interesting and cool idea. And in the way that the Ghostface kept calling from Richie's phone throughout the film, maybe should have tipped me off a little bit sooner, but I just didn't necessarily tie that all together per se. I thought maybe it was just someone that was working with him, not necessarily related to him for sure. And I did think them using the trope of the familial element is a little bit repetitive at this point, because they've used Sidney's family members, Billy Loomis's family members now, between killers and heroes. I think they've kind of relied on that a little too much, a la Star Wars like, but either way, it was still a pretty cool reveal. I think the actors did a pretty good job overall. I did think that Ethan, as a character overall, was a little bit weak and a little bit too one-dimensional. Quinn, I thought, was at least charismatic enough and in the film enough to feel more like a person that maybe wasn't the killer, so that reveal kind of got me a little bit in the whole way that they faked her death. I thought was pretty well done, and kind of everything was happening so fast and so intense, I didn't necessarily pick up in the moment that they faked her death right there. And I would assume that it was Ethan that was in the room at the time doing that shit, not necessarily Detective Bailey, but we'll have to wait and see. But overall, I don't think they stretched the plausibility too much with who the Ghostface killers are and how the reveals come together. But I do think they kind of expect you to suspend your disbelief a little too much when it comes to the damage that some of the characters take throughout the film. Just a bit too much at times. It's a horror movie. It's a fictional thing. I totally understand that, and that doesn't necessarily take out all the enjoyment of the film, but I think definitely lowers the stakes just slightly, just a little bit from where they could have been and where they should have been, kind of considering what was going down in this one. But I really thoroughly enjoyed this film. It is so well done. It is definitely going to be up there as one of my favorite Scream installments for the rest of my life. I absolutely had a blast with this film. I want to hear from y'all. Drop your thoughts down in the comments below and let us know what you thought about the latest and 6th installment of the Scream franchise. Scream 6, baby. Get it up and let me know what you thought about it down below in the comments. Did you see the killer reveals coming? Did you love the kill scenes? Did you think it was not as brutal as people are saying? I'm telling you, man, they're stabbing people in the mouth, Happy Birthday to Me style, twisting knives up in your stomach. It's going in. So I want to hear from all of y'all down in the comments. As I mentioned earlier throughout the video a couple times, we do have more Scream content we're going to be dropping with Scream 6 and beyond, getting into some Scream 7 speculation, ranking the franchise, the Ghostface killers, and some other fun reveals and things of that nature, getting into all the different Easter eggs and references as well. We got a whole breakdown. I'm going to try to do as much in chronological order throughout the film as possible, so make sure you stay tuned for all the dope content we got dropping this week and beyond, whether that's Scream related or otherwise. So make sure you stay tuned, don't sleep, and let me know what's your favorite scary movie.